happens to us, on our life chances, on our opportunities, on what we do with our resources, and on the nature of the world that we live in. So, I want to just cover a few things that came up during the week. One of the big news items is the fact that Senator Evan Bayh has chosen not to run for re-election. He is leaving the Senate. Here's what he had to say. Number 7, I think, is our clip.
The decision, it may be shocking that someone in public office would actually decide to voluntarily step down, but I reached the conclusion that if I could help to create jobs by growing a business or help educate our children in a university or college or help a philanthropy or charity, I would be getting more done to help people in their daily lives than Congress is currently doing. And so for me, I've always been about helping people, and I think that I can do more for that in the private sector right now than remaining in Congress.
Okay, so he feels that he can do more in the private sector than remaining in Congress. Now, Evan Bayh has been in the Congress for a while. For those that don't know, he's been in politics for a long time. He was, I believe, governor of Indiana. He was the youngest governor ever. He's been in the political game for a while, and now he's saying that he's leaving Congress because he doesn't feel like he can get things done. What do you think? A poll came out recently that Congress is having, massive low approval ratings. Do you feel like our governmental system is broken? Do you feel that it can be fixed? What do you think needs to happen in order for it to work for us? Give me a shout and let me know what you think. I'm at 866-677-2496. That's 866-OPRAH-XM. What do you think needs to be needs to happen to make our government work for you? And do you think it's broken, or do you feel like it's all good? Evan Bayh has decided to quit. Do you feel like that's the answer? 866-677-2496. I want to hear from you. And also, obviously, the Facebook and Twitter people, y'all keep rocking and rolling. So, obviously, twitter.com/Ashong. Let us know what you think. Ustream, folks, I know that our feed has gone down briefly. We'll let you know when it's back up. Facebook.com/Derrick Ashong Experience. We want to hear from y'all, too. Now, here's my thing. Evan Bayh is not going to run for re-election. And I guess it's I want to compare it to something that happened this summer, because it sounds like he's kind of quitting. When Sarah Palin gave her speech over the summer about what was going on with her leaving her job, a lot of people had major criticisms. And yet with Senator Bayh, I've heard some criticism, but not to the same degree. Now, there's a big difference. And really quickly, for those on Ustream, you can see us. We're back alive again. Ustream.tv/Derrick Ashong Experience. The big difference is that Sarah left in the middle of her term, right? Evan is announcing it in the middle of his, but he's not leaving just yet. He's going to stay through the year, but then he's not going to run for re-election. But I have some concerns about it. Right? I'm wondering, what does it really mean to be committed to something? What does it mean to be committed, and what point is it fair to call it quits? Is it okay for Evan to back out now? The country is in a state of major challenges. I mean, we need all the leadership we can get, right? And yet we have congressional leaders saying, oh, man, it's too hot in the kitchen. I don't want a part of this anymore. I don't want to be down anymore. What do you think? Is he punking out? Is he pulling a Palin? Call me. Let me know your thoughts. 866-OPRAH-XM. That's 866-677-2496. My personal thought, I think it's a hard thing, right? We can't quite require somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Slavery has been abolished, at least for the main part in this country. How can we force a leader to stay in office if he's no longer feeling it? And if he's leaving, what kind of leaders do we want to replace him, right? Do we want to continue with the kind of folks that we've had in the past? Do we feel like the ones that are there today are doing the job we need them to do? Are you willing to be that kind of leader we're talking about? Would you ever run for office? Why or why not? Give us a shout. Let us know. 866-OPRAH-XM, 866-677-2496. As we're talking about leaders who are present and past, I cannot ignore the fact that former vice presidents, I keep forgetting that he wasn't running things. The way he talks, you'd think he would. Former Vice President Cheney had some comments to say at the CPAC conference this week, and specifically had some very interesting things to say about the current president, Obama. Can we get clip number 9?
As I look to the future now, I think the developments that we've seen over the last several months are enormously encouraging. I think when we can achieve the kind of results that we've achieved in places like Virginia and New Jersey and Massachusetts, the sky's the limit here. I think 2010 is going to be a phenomenal year. And I think Barack Obama is a one-term president.
Hey, Cheney is talking some heavy-duty stuff. He believes that the 2010 is going to be a phenomenal year for conservatives. And there are a lot of people cheering. They believe in him. He thinks that Barack Obama is going to be a one-term president, and everyone's like, yeah. And yet we're looking at our government, and it seems to be stalled. And it can't just be the Democrats. Seems the Republicans have had something to do with it, too. So is Cheney rooting for me and you? Je ne sais pas. I don't know. Cindy, what do you think about the state of our government today?
Well, right now, I don't think it is. Yeah, I don't think it is working. I think there are some major issues in Congress. I think the bipartisanship that is happening, the not getting the work done, is the problem. I definitely think that's the problem. I don't disagree if Evan Bayh thinks that he can do more for us outside of his current position. I'm fine with that, but I can't help but to wonder if he really thinks that the system is broken and he really thinks that he can affect change, then maybe he should be the one that stands up and says, hey, I think the system is broken, and I think we need to affect change, and I think this is what is happening.
See, Cindy, that's exactly what I've been thinking about, right? Because I'm like, yo, you're telling me that this thing is a problem. You're telling me that it's not working properly, and so your answer is to quit. Right? He's basically saying like, yo, it doesn't work, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. He's saying that he can best serve the people through the private sector. But, I mean, what's he really going to do? Is he going to start a company that's going to employ all of us? I mean, is he going to start an NGO that's going to raise awareness of the problems of government? What is an individual going to do outside of the government? And when we see someone who has been a longtime leader saying that the system is so broken that he doesn't even want to be a part of it anymore, how are we supposed to feel? Is this irreparable? Interesting. Susan, you're on the Derrick Ashong Experience. What do you think? Is government too broke to fix?
Well, Derrick, I appreciate you taking my call today. I do believe that the government is broke. I voted Democrat, and I have for a number of years.
Yeah. And why have you voted Democratic?
On the Democratic ticket, I've been a Democrat, and I've always voted for the Democrats.
Okay. But why? I'm just curious. What moved you to be a committed Democrat?
The fact that they appear to be more conscious of the people, the people's needs,
Gotcha.
What we need, and not the selfishness of the Republicans. And I just believe that the Republicans are very selfish people.
And when looking at this first year, we've got a Democratic president, we've got a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate. Senate had a supermajority. Now it's still a 59-seat majority. How do you feel about the Democrats today?
I think Obama is in the right direction. I wish people would give him a little more credit where credit is due. I think that however, though, believe that the political action committees, I will not subscribe to AARP, even though I am eligible for it, because that in itself is a political action committee. That until we get rid of that and get some accountability, quit loading these bills up, this deficit bills, these bills that we have now, until we quit loading them up with needless things.
Yes.
Nothing's going to change. We have to hold these politicians, the whole idea, the whole business accountable.
Well, so this is interesting. So you're saying that, something like AARP, because it's a lobbying organization, even though you're eligible for benefits with it, you don't want to be a part of it because you think that we should be ending the kind of lobbying system that we currently have?
I absolutely do. I used to work as a sales rep for a beer and wine wholesaler, and it was the management, the owner of the company, took me into his office and questioned why I would not give money towards that PAC group, and I just don't, in my soul, I can't give money to corrupt the officials. Wow. And that's what it is. They want them to vote in their way. Yes. We elect these officials to do what we feel is best for us and not what the big money groups want us to do.
Susan, thank you so much for stating that. I actually couldn't agree more, specifically on the point of we elect these folks to do the people's business, not necessarily to do the business of those with the fattest wallets. We are talking about the state of government in the United States today. Is it broken? If so, what's wrong, and can we fix it? You're listening to the Derrick Ashong Experience, and you can call us directly at 866-677-2496. What would you think, or what would you do to fix the government today? Lucy, you're on the air. What would you do?
Hi. I don't know what I would do, but I know one thing. I think that the senators and the congressmen are feeling the pressure of what Obama said in his State of the Union, which was, you're not here for your own personal agenda. Yes. You're here to serve the people, get to work. And they've got so many personal issues, so many personal things that they've been in there for years. They're not supposed to go in there for a lifetime.
So are you saying that you think Evan Bayh is quitting because he can't take the pressure of what Obama turning up the heat on Congress?
Honestly, I do. Because I think that he's having to give up something that he's not willing to give up. And so he's going to go get it somewhere else.
So this is a powerful point. I mean, because Lucy, basically you're saying that, hey, maybe there's more money to be made. Maybe there's more opportunity in the private sector. If the president is calling on Congress to make the tough choices, no matter what, to serve the people, maybe some people don't want to do that. But I have a question, though. If someone like Evan Bayh doesn't want to run again, why not stay there and just fight that much harder? If you don't have to worry about re-election, why not throw out the ideas of all the moneyed people and do the people's business for this last term?
Because he's not in there to do the people business. He's in there to take care of his own business, of his own agendas, of the what are those people called? The
lobbyists.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that there are senators and congressmen that have been there for so long.
Yes.
They're so deep in the pocket of the lobbyists that they can't do what they're supposed to do because then they go against the people that put them in there to begin with.
Well, Lucy, you hit on a strong point, and thank you for calling and sharing that. You guys, Lucy is basically saying that there are people in Congress today who are career politicians. Politics is what they do, right? That's their job. And they're not necessarily here to represent me or you, because you and I do not have the ability to finance their campaigns in the ways that some greater, more moneyed interests might be able to. Therefore, they serve the folks that pay the bills. You got to make sure that you're representing the people who hired you, correct? Who does our government work for? Who do our leaders work for? And are they truly serving the interests of the people? I want to know your thoughts. Is Congress broken, and can it be fixed? 866-OPRAH-XM. 866-OPRAH-XM. Now, I have a couple of thoughts, and some of y'all who listened from the beginning when we launched the show, I brought up a Supreme Court decision that came down in January that basically deregulated, or at least it took the teeth out of the McCain-Feingold bill, which was a piece of legislation that abrogated the amount of money that corporations could put into campaigns, corporations and individuals. But this particular Supreme Court ruling said that you cannot put a limit on the amount that a company can contribute to spend on issue advocacy, all those ads and whatnot that we see just before the campaign. They're saying that you can't prevent them from spending money on those ads. They can put out there whatever they want, which kind of winds up confusing the issue. it kind of makes it a little bit difficult to deal with when you think about all of those things that people are putting out there that are telling you, right, vote for this person, they believe in this, or vote for that person, they believe in that. And every year we come around and we vote for folks, and then they get in office and we're like, they're not getting the job done. Maybe the issue is not so much the people we elect, but the process by which we elect them. Because think about it. If a candidate doesn't have enough money to pay for those ads so that you can hear about them and know that they've got a good wife and a child and they support family values and give them your vote, how are they possibly going to get elected? So before we even get to a primary or an election or whatever, we have a wealth primary. Only the people who have enough money to get on the airwaves are going to even have a shot at getting elected. Who gives them the money? Where does the money come from? Who are they really working for? Who do they represent? That's what I want to talk about today. I want to know what you think. What do you think about bipartisanship? Why is it such a big issue? Doesn't it seem like taking sides is a big deal today, right? Who's responsible for that? Why is our politics so divided? Is it the media? Is it the political parties? Is it Fox News, MSNBC? Is it Dick Cheney or maybe Liz? What do you think? Call me, 866-677-2496. Gina, you are on the air. What are your thoughts on the state of our government?
I think the system is definitely broken, and I think it's largely because of the bipartisanship, just in general. I think your previous caller made a great point about, I think, the lobbying firms and just the lobbying that goes on in general is a huge contributor, but I think it starts even before that, when these politicians want to get elected. I think that they have to pick sides if they want the party to support
be back
them.
Behind them.
They do. And, and I've seen that recently. We have a friend who wants to run for a spot in Congress, and he has announced that he's going to be doing that. And it was funny because a few weeks previous to him wanting to run for Congress, he made a trip to Washington to meet with one particular party and some particular individuals within that party to get their support. And so I feel like that these individuals that want to run for public office, if they want the party's support, that they're basically, the party will say to them, listen, we'll give you our support, but you need to pick a side on these big wedge issues, whether it be abortion or whether it be the war in Afghanistan or Iraq. I mean, where do you stand on these big things? Healthcare, it's huge. I mean, if you don't pick a side, and if you're not going to vote like we want you to vote, then you could forget about our support.
Well, Gina, that's interesting because that idea of support, you're completely right. Who is going to be able to get elected all by themselves? You got to have the backing financially and logistically and politically from one of the two major parties. And you bring up an interesting issue, which is that they've got to say, where do you stand on the wedge issues? Where do you stand on the war? Where do you stand on abortion and things of that nature? And the sad thing is, once you pick a side, it's almost like you got to tick off every box that they've got there. If you're conservative, you're against abortion, you are pro-war, you are pro-fiscal responsibility, but you're also pro-cutting taxes. And so I can't come to someone and say to them, yo, if you are anti-deficit, how can you be pro-cutting taxes when the fact of the matter is cutting taxes has been part of what got us into this deficit situation? Likewise, we can turn to a Democrat or a liberal and say, well, you must be pro-choice. You must believe in government spending to solve certain kinds of social issues. You must be anti-war. And you can't say to that person, hey, is it not possible that the government spending money in certain areas, we should cut that spending until we find that the money is actually going to do what it's supposed to do and not just floating out into the winds? No, you got to stick with the party line, right? Gina, I appreciate you bringing up that point because I think that the party line issue is big. It's really big, and it's something that is starting to eat away at the very fabric of our democracy. And I'm curious, how do we break that down? I'm wondering if any of you guys have ideas for what you would like to see happen, right? How would you think things should be? How do you think our government ought to work? How do we get to a point where our representatives actually represent us. Call me, give me your thoughts. 866-677-2496. 866-677-2496. I want to know how we get our government to work for us. And what do you think needs to happen to make that possible? Personally, I think that the issue that was raised earlier about career politicians is crucial. We need to have term limits for Congress. The same way we have term limits for the presidency, we need to have term limits for Congress. If someone becomes a professional politician, where in order to be in your job, you've got to constantly be raising money to do stuff, how can we expect that you're going to really work for us? I mean, especially you look at some of these folks who have been in Congress for 20, 30 years, right? At a certain point, does it get to where you're no longer so much interested in serving the people than you are interested in keeping your job? Isn't that only natural? Who wants to get fired? What if we said, hey, you can only do this job for 2 terms or 3 terms, 10 years, 15 years. Give them 3 terms in the Senate. That's 18 years. Do you really need more than that? If you couldn't get the job done, maybe we need some new blood. Luz, you're on the air. What do you think?
Hey, Derrick, thanks for taking my call. I echo your comments. Mm-hmm. I think that our political system needs to be revamped. You know, let's not make any jokes about this. We all know that our system is fed by the rich. The more money you have, the more power you have, the more entrenched you are in the political system. Those guys have been there forever and ever. They're not looking out for our interests, the common people. They're looking out for themselves, and they're pocketing money, and they're getting more and more entrenched with the negative side of politics. And you know, I don't even think they should have 3 terms. You know, two is enough. It needs to be revamped. We need to make it where the common guy can run and do something good for us, and if not, get out.
I love that, Luz. I think you're exactly on point. I mean, seriously, like if you have a certain amount of, and this is the thing, like we're talking about what used to be called public service, right? This is public service. You're supposed to be serving the people. And folks get into these positions, and they're so focused on what is in their own best and narrow interest that they want to stay in the job. They don't necessarily have the willingness to do what it takes to serve the people, because if it's unpopular or if it's difficult, we'll vote you out. Let somebody come in here and talk about the deficit or the debt, the government debt. And they're 2 different things. When we say the deficit, we're talking usually about the annual deficit, how much we are in the red this year. There's also a trade deficit, the difference between how much we import and how much we sell. The best way to think about that is if you had a store, you ran a 7-Eleven, and you buy all these goods, but you hardly sell any. You're going out of business. So we've got a trade deficit there as well. But then we have the issue of the government debt. That is all the obligations that the government has made to the people that it has not got the money to pay for. And when somebody says to me, yo, I want to cut the deficit or I want to cut the debt, and yet I want to cut taxes, I'm like, that's nonsense. Because how can you reduce your revenue to pay for your debt, right? Let somebody else come in and say, okay, well, I think we've got to address the debt, but people have got needs and we're going to have to increase more spending. Well, how do you increase spending and reduce your debt? No one will tell you the truth, that we are going to have to cut certain kinds of spending and we're going to have to raise taxes, that we're going to have to do both to address the crisis our government is in. And there's a crisis. Some of my friends have been on Facebook and Twitter, be like, Derrick, there's no crisis, and you're falling into the trap of the Republicans. You're giving the GOP talking points and saying that this is a problem. No, I'm not giving the GOP talking points. The problem is very simple. It's not just a matter of are we bankrupt today. It's a question of if other entities believe that we are going to be able to absorb the fiscal problems that we have laid out, the ones that are facing us. And if they don't have confidence in us, you can see major impacts on our economy. You see it happening right now in Europe, right? Greece, Ireland, Spain, Portugal are not bankrupt nations, but there's the possibility that they could be, and is radically affecting their economies. We are Americans. We believe in our own sense of exceptionalism. We're special, indeed. But if it could happen to them, could it not happen to us? And what would be the impact? So it's not that it's a crisis of tomorrow the government will go broke, but it is a crisis in the sense that if we don't figure out how to deal with these issues, who is going to believe in our system of governance and in our ability to pay back the debts that they are financing? A majority of American debt today is held by foreign hands. What do we do? How do we fix it? And which politician is going to tell you the truth and still earn your vote? If somebody runs for election and they say, yo, we are going to raise your taxes and we're going to cut government spending, would you vote for them? Judy, could you see yourself voting for that candidate?
Yes, I could. As long as you're doing what the country needs at the moment, I could.
Okay. And basically, why do you then think that the government officials won't do those things?
Because they're afraid of not being reelected.
Okay.
That's why we're in this situation now, why nothing is happening now, because they're just worried about their jobs.
Okay. And Judy, you're following us on Twitter, right? You're T all day?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you decided to give us a call as well. What do you think needs to happen to make our government work better?
Well, my point is it should just be majority rules. That's it. Majority wins the vote. Not the 60 plus. We'll never get anything done.
Okay, so Judy is talking about the filibuster. And for those that don't know, the filibuster is what basically in the Senate, if there's a piece of legislation that someone really agrees with it, they can basically filibuster. And what that means is that instead of getting 50 votes or more in order to pass the legislation, they can say that I'm going to continue to speak. I'm basically going to lecture. And they don't actually have to do it anymore. They just threaten to do it. But I'm going to speak to the point where we cannot close debate and vote. So it's not even that you have to get 50 votes to vote on an issue. It's that you have to get 60 votes to get to the point where you're allowed to vote on the issue. And because we can't get those 60 votes, we can't get any legislation passed. Thank you, Judy, for sharing that point. The filibuster needs to be addressed, or we are going to continue to be in something of a hairy mess. It's funny, though, because it seems kind of unconstitutional, right? I mean, we vote people into Congress, and yet we don't find that they can actually vote for the things we want them to without having extra votes involved. Is this right? Is it fair? Is this how it should be? What should we do about it? Call us and let us know what you think. 866-OPRA-XM, 866-677-2496. I think that we need to get rid of the filibuster yesterday. And the reason why we need to get rid of it is because it is anti-democratic. If we voted a certain group into the majority, then we voted them there because we believe in them and we believe in what they want to do. And if they don't do it, then we will vote them out. That is the purpose of having elections. But we shouldn't have a system where you can vote 59 senators into the Senate, and then the other 41 can be like, yo, we're not going to do this. And the sad truth of the matter is, it's all political. It's all political. You guys hear me up here, and I'm like, I'm an independent. But even as an independent, I can see what's going on. And the fact of the matter is, the Republican Party right now doesn't want to see Obama get reelected. They're hoping to be able to slow things down. Certain radio personalities were very, very clear in stating earlier last year that they wanted Obama to fail, namely Rush Limbaugh. We want him to fail. Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina stated this summer that he thought that health care should be Obama's Waterloo. They want him to fail. But it's not Obama that doesn't have health care. It's not Jim DeMint that doesn't have health care. Rush Limbaugh's got great care. It's people like you and I who are just trying to live our lives day to day to day that are suffering. And until we find a way to make our leaders more accountable, we're going to have problems with this. We need to be able to have leaders tell us the truth, and we need to be able to absorb and evaluate that truth and make our decisions accordingly so that we can have the kind of society that we want to live in. Yes, end the filibuster. And yes, let's have term limits for these folks so that they're actually there working for the people and not simply working for politics. Now we're winding down close to the end of the show. And I think that this issue, one of the things that I have been thinking a lot about is how we discuss these problems that are facing us, right? And I've been having debates. I've been, doing these speeches. I started out this earlier today joking about how I've been giving all these Black History Month speeches. But honestly, most of the time when I give speeches during Black History Month, I don't talk about race. I talk about the same things I talk about on a radio show, right? The issues that affect our lives and how we live them. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people seem to want to hear what they want to hear. Not necessarily willing to listen to a perspective that might be different or that might be difficult to deal with, but one that is comfortable for them. Tell me what I already want to know. And that's problematic. The truth should not be variable. So as you guys know, I like to end with a little bit of creativity. And I was thinking about this issue of what happens when you're talking to somebody who already knows what's up? They already know what's true. They are completely right in their stance. And no matter what you say, there's no way you're going to convey anything new to them. And so I just sat and thought about truth and what it's all about. And I wrote a poem that says it seems the truth is better served cold, because most people prefer it with ice cream, maybe a scoop of vanilla with some chocolate well swirled for an hour. Sprinkle it with a bunch of nuts, and now you're playing with power. Everybody's got their favorite brand. Some like their truth with double scoops of personal preference cultivated since youth. Others prefer theirs low-fat. Strip out what we don't think best to ingest, and we'll gladly profess what's left. For most folks, truth is not necessarily a key ingredient. I mean, how much of this stuff can we really swallow? We had plenty of the medicine yesterday, and the results still ring a little hollow. So maybe we'll spice it up with a little extra flavor, give you a new hairdo, maybe buy a better savior. And untreated truth is not even that good for you. We've got a milder brand. We call it mostly true. Or better yet, try just what you want to hear. It'll make you feel great, make those fears disappear. And in the end, we'll get fat off the additives. Let our flesh grow swole with preservatives. And I'll sell you the best brand of tummy tuck. Cut the truth out your guts and then sew you up. And yet all I ever wanted was the skinny. But the truth's gotten lost in the sauce. So I guess you can have yours as you like it. As for me, I still like it raw. That's my word. You're listening to the Derrick Ashong Experience. We believe in seeking the truth on this particular radio show. And you can hear us not only live on airways every Saturday, but you can join the conversation online. You can join the conversation year and day round, 24/7. Twitter.com/Ashong, Ustream.tv/Derrick Ashong, Facebook.com/Derrick Ashong. Before we go, I got to give a shout out to the Olympics. It seems that the U.S. has won 6. Is this 6 today? Did we get 6 today? We know we got more than 6 Olympic medals, gold medals overall. It seems we've got 6 Olympic golds. Germany's got 4. Norway's got 5. Okay, so that's U.S. first, Norway second, Germany third. America is apparently not quite over yet. We're doing pretty good. We've got 20 gold medals overall. If only we could get our politicians to be as dope as our athletes. We're going to figure out a way. It's been great talking to y'all today. Check us out online, and next Saturday, we will see you soon.